Thank you so much. Thank you for keeping me straight, Henry. We wish to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Shawnee and the Manahoac tribes who lived in this area prior to the arrival of the European settlers who then took the land for their own. We come together each Sunday morning as a community of seekers, seekers of what is important in our lives, seekers of understanding in the face of uncertainty and loss, seekers of forgiveness for our shortcomings, seekers of gratitude for the unexpected gifts we receive from all around us. We gather in awe of the beauty of nature and the mysteries of the universe. But most importantly, we come together as seekers of a community of love and empowerment, celebrating our search for truth and meaning in our daily lives. Our speaker today is Tommy Hughes. Tommy Hughes is so glad to be speaking with all of you today. Although he doesn't have a long resume of missionary or charity work that can be listed, he values the connections that we share when we discuss our faith and that which is beyond our understanding. It is that value that brings him here today. He owes a lot of his spiritual development to his wonderful wife, Diana, who not only encouraged him to put value in finding a spiritual community, but also tempered his beliefs with wise ways of thinking about our role in society that aren't always the most obvious. This influence led Tommy to a Christian mystic church and many of his interpretations of Christianity. At this time, I'm going to ask his wife, Diana, to come up and light the chalice for us. Let us all say together, here and from our homes, the words for lighting the chalice. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, sustain, to share. And I invite you to join with us as we say our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Dwell together in peace, seek truth and freedom, and to help our neighbor. These ends we covenant one with another. And now we will sing our first hymn, number 389, Gather Here. That was beautiful. Our words of meditation will be read by Mickey Leeper.
Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, where there is despair, I may bring hope, where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen.
At this time, we will have time for all ages.
Good morning. So in doing some research for this time, I looked up St. Francis and tried to find a children's book, and then realized, oh my goodness, I met the St. Francis of Frederick County about 15 years ago. True. This is true. When my son married his high school sweetheart and they set up housekeeping, it was time to get a dog. She wanted a Mastiff. He was absolutely, Jane, you will appreciate this, opposed to a purebred dog. So I happened to see a notice at Martin's with those little tear-off things. They don't do that anymore, I don't think. And it said, Mastiff German Shepherd puppies, free to good home. So I called, and I went and met the woman who had the puppies. She was a substitute mail lady We have some male ladies in here. Dixie and Gail is in here. So good folks. She was on a route she'd never been on before. She saw a very poorly looking German Shepherd tied up in the yard. Sorry, Linda, you've heard this story. Tied up in the yard. She went to the door, knocked on the door, and here appeared a man with a beautiful in the house. And she said to him, "If you don't want that dog, I will take it." That's St. Francis. You care and you act. So he said, "Sure, take it." She put it in her mail truck, finished her route, goes home, makes a nice place in her garage for this dog, and the next morning, there's 8 puppies. So, St. Francis and this anonymous mail lady are both saints. Thank you.
Let's, let's sing the children out. Go now in peace, go now in peace, may the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. These words for meditation. The deeds you may do may be the only sermon someone hears today. And now I will turn it over to Tommy.
Hello, how are you all? I was encouraged to mention a little bit about myself before I started, just lecturing at you. So thank you for having me here. Thank you for having me here today. It means a lot. I love speaking about my faith, and I love being able to connect with people over that kind of thing. I was raised Roman Catholic, devout Roman Catholic. My family moved me around the country, taking me to a lot of different Catholic churches. I was involved in youth life ministries and all that kind of stuff. I went to Christian rock concerts, and it was quite the teenage years. After I got out of high school, I had a falling out with the Roman Catholic Church, and I viewed myself as a Christian mystic and believed that there was no religious community for that kind of belief. So I kind of had my own little devotion that didn't have any real structure to it. When I met my wife, she encouraged me to pursue that, and I did find a Christian mystic church, and I started going there, and a lot of my faith developed around the ideas of mysticism and Christianity at the same time. So forgive me, a lot of my terminology is going to be a little bit Catholic leaning, but it is very blanket. Anyway, so let me start by talking about St. Francis. St. Francis was born in 1182 in Assisi, Italy, and was baptized with the name John. It was a very almost cliche legend that is passed down about St. Francis. He was baptized under the name John because his mother wanted him to be a man of God. His father, who was away in the Third Crusade, didn't know this and did not want to raise his son a man of God, and immediately changed his name to Francis, or the Francesco, which means the Frenchman. The reason being, he wanted his son to be a merchant. He wanted his son to grow up knowing business and how to make money. And St. Francis was very good at this. He became very wealthy, noble status, and when it came time to go to the Crusades, he had an opulent suit of armor made for him and left to go fight for the church with the papal army. En route, he had a vision that told him go back to Assisi. So he turned around and went back to Assisi. Was ridiculed for being a coward, was disowned by his father for this huge waste of money that he had just put on the family. And when he was disowned, he stripped his armor off, he stripped his clothes off, gave all of the money that he had left away, and renounced the life that he had formerly known. He lived in the wilderness. He was given a message to rebuild the church which had fallen into ruin. And he took this to mean the church in his hometown, but that quickly started spreading to other churches in other towns as his following started growing. He accumulated followers. He preached to everyone that would listen, messages of brotherly love, and this included preaching to animals. Legend goes that he did preach to animals. And that is why when you see statues of him, that is why he has a dove and a deer in the statue as well. He's the patron saint of animals because he delivered the gospel to them. This was all before he was even made a priest. This was before he was even a monk. This was just him doing what he thought he was supposed to be doing. And the Catholic Church took note of it, took him on board, and had him going onto a mission of rebuilding all of the churches in the Holy Roman Empire. This was largely done so that they could make sure that they were controlling the message of his sermon, because even though it seemed to fit into what they were trying to teach, they didn't have any kind of guarantee that that was going to always be the case. He was going around just helping the poor all willy-nilly, and we can't all necessarily have that, right? Eventually, his life came around full circle, and while he was away on mission, rebuilding churches on the edges of the Roman Empire, that city became undertaken by the Fifth Crusades, and he saw the devastation that the Fifth Crusades caused. The blood, the death, the mangling of human bodies all over the town that he was trying to bring to God. So legends are different here. He either was captured or he marched right up to the Sultan, Sultan al-Kamil. But either way, the important takeaway here is that he gained an audience with that Sultan. And they formed a friendship that was based on a mutual respect and an ability to discuss their faiths respectfully without diminishing the others. And they were so moved by this that this whole relationship was instrumental in bringing about the peace that followed the Fifth Crusades. We probably wouldn't have seen an end nearly as quick, and this kind of formed a lot of the relations that we wish that we had in this world today. Being able to reach out across faith barriers, being able to talk with people and be vulnerable about the things that matter to us. Now here's the kicker. St. Francis did not write this prayer. The prayer is attributed to Father Esther Becquerel. I can't pronounce this word. It is French. It is beyond my language. It was originally appeared in a magazine that he edited. So why the huge history on St. Francis if he didn't really actually write the prayer? Because St. Francis has always been one of the Catholic Church's most recognizable saints. Even if you're not Catholic, you probably know who St. Francis is. You probably know at least one or two little tidbits of history about him. And you understand that he was generally a good dude. Even 100 years ago, people felt this desire. This prayer was written around the turn of the 20th century. So even back then, people understood the bridges that St. Francis crossed, that we were able to evoke by evoking his name. These are concepts like loving your neighbor, caring for the poor, reverence for nature, and the search for peace and love and forgiveness. Now, Catholicism in St. Francis's time was very different than how we see Catholicism today. Catholicism in St. Francis's time was based around a philosophy called Neoplatonism. Neoplatonism is the idea that everything that we experience in this world is just a representation of some true form that exists beyond our understanding. We can have an idea of what it is, but we don't know fully what it is. And a good example that I like to throw out to people is if you go onto Google and you do an image search for something like chair, something really generic, you're going to get like thousands and thousands of images of chairs, and they're all different. But somehow you look at every single one of those and you say in your head, chair. And the reason that Neoplatonism and Platonism tell you this is because somewhere there exists this perfect form of a chair that we don't have access to, but it's stored somewhere in the back of our head. This is a really simple example of it, but it extends on to greater concepts like love and forgiveness and justice. So don't think of love lowercase l, think of love uppercase L. And this is this love that we don't quite grasp, but we can experience and we can have access to. We have familial love and we have the love of a partner. These are two different loves in how we express them, I hope. But they are both recognized. When we look at them, we still say love. And this is because Neoplatonist Catholics believed there is some greater version of love, capital L, that exists beyond our full understanding. And all these little versions of love that we experience are flawed representations, but not necessarily like lesser. They're just not the whole picture. I just lost my place. I was engaging too much up. So there we go. And people will say, but it's a different kind of love. And that's the point. The capital L, there isn't a differentiation. Lowercase l, there's a bunch of differentiations. And that's what we're trying to figure out, is what makes all of those lowercase l's fall into the same category as the uppercase L. Now, Neoplatonist Catholics believed that God was the intersection of all of these things: love, justice, compassion, peace. All of these things, where they intersected, that was God. Not God resided there, that was God. And as the prayer says, make me a channel of your peace, that could just as easily be said as make me a channel of peace, capital P. Because to St. Francis, God was peace. And when we say the prayer and meditate on it, we aren't asking to bring about peace. We're asking for that capital P peace to flow through us and influence our actions. We are asking to be able to set aside our own ideas of what we think peace is, what we think love is, what we think justice is, and let that perfect version of it kind of flow through us and influence us, so that the result might be a little better than if we insisted that we know better and that we want to decide what a loving resolution to this or a justice resolution to this looks like. So this is where the class that we had came in. Back in November, Lori organized a St. Francis prayer class where we took the prayer apart piece by piece, examined what the values were that it espoused, what those values meant to us, and just kind of discussed it. It's a moment of vulnerability. We get to say, these are the things that matter to us. These are why they matter to us. And this is how we live in service to these values. And that is what the prayer is meant to inspire. It's not just supposed to be some blind prayer that we recite and leave it at that. It is supposed to be something that opens the door so that we can open up vulnerably about the things that we care about and connect on them, so that those connections are made stronger by knowing that we care about them. But it's also meant to be done respectfully, because if you're asking to be that channel of peace or of love, when you go and discuss it, You don't, you're letting that love flow through you. So you don't have to worry about coming across as disrespectful, because you're doing it from the basis of love, from the basis of peace and compassion and truth. Doesn't matter what those mean to everybody in this room. They only matter what they mean to you. When someone else shares that with you, you get to connect over that. At least some aspects of this prayer can be held in value to everybody in this room, to everybody in this world. Like, we can all find something in this that we value and share that value and connect over that value. It's an exercise in humility. It's the realization that our understanding of these values is fallible. And it's an acknowledgement that there's a more perfect way, and that we can surrender to that and be freed by surrendering. We don't have to be burdened by knowing what peace looks like, what justice, what compassion, what humility, what harmony, what all these things look like. We don't have to be burdened by that. And just let those things affect us. We don't have to define them. And so when St. Francis went to the Crusades, he was captured, according to some stories, by Sultan Al-Kamil. They formed this friendship based on that ability to discuss their faiths openly and see the respect in how all of this bloodshed that was going on was contradictory to the things that they both held dear. And keep in mind, this was during a war that was being fought over everybody's inability to do exactly that thing. Like, people couldn't talk about that. That's why they were fighting over Jerusalem. So that we had two people that were able to talk compassionately about this and move past it. They were able to find that peaceful answer, to move forward and to end these things that were contradictory to the things that they loved. So, the prayer of St. Francis, since its creation, has been a call to come together in our difficulties, be an instrument of the highest values, no matter what one calls them. The prayer, the poem, whatever you want to call it, however you want to relate to it, I encourage you all to reflect on these words. Do what we did in this class. Like, take the whole thing apart piece by piece and analyze what it means to you, how you would say it differently. It doesn't matter. Everybody that might be mad that you altered the prayer, they're gone. They've been gone for almost 100 years now. We don't have to worry about offending anyone. Just go ahead and take the prayer. Take what it means to you and share it. Like, let people know what you think justice is, what you think forgiveness is, how you view harmony. Because that's how we come together. That's how we strengthen the connections between us. It's by discussing what's valuable to us and how those things are different. Because it is those differences that allow us to paint a bigger picture of what that value is. A lot of great art and works of variations on this prayer have been made. From pop song covers, Sarah McLachlan covered this song. We listened to that in the class. It has been used as a Catholic hymn, and I'm sure other Christian churches have used it as a hymn as well. Our Mystic Church did, I know. And it's a beautiful song, but it has influenced so much of the things that we've done. And I want to leave you on this one note about it. There was a play made, it was after 9/11, called Far From Here. And the play was about a island, or Nova Scotia, Canada, a small town in Nova Scotia, that was where they rediverted a lot of the planes that weren't hijacked, when we had to ground all the planes. So this little town that had just a few thousand people in it, all of a sudden 10,000 people were landing in this town. And all of them were getting off the plane having no idea what was going on. They weren't receiving updates on the planes. They landed and wondered why they were in Nova Scotia. But this small town opened up their doors to them and gave them food, gave them shelter, gave them a place to pray if they needed to pray. All of these things were provided because this town opened their hearts. And there's a great scene in the play where they're all coming together. And it's all the different faiths. You have Judaism, you have Islam, you have Christianity, all there. And it's under the backdrop of St. Francis's prayer. And I wanted to play that for you right now, because we did play that in the class. And it was one of the things that I brought in, and I think it might be part of the reason that they asked me to speak on the topic. But I wanted to play that for you real quick, and that's what I'm going to leave you on. Thank you so much for letting me speak with you guys today. This prayer is a beautiful prayer. It means a lot to me. Take it away.
Everywhere you look, there are people from around the globe going back and forth for phones or showers, or grabbing something from shoppers. I'm getting coffee at a gas station on the main drag when suddenly the entire place goes quiet. Even the people outside are standing still. And I look up at the TVs and realize it's a national moment of silence in America. And these Newfoundlanders, these people from another country, they maintain that moment of silence. I don't know if that had happened back home, at a busy gas station on the main drag, but it happened here.
Beulah walks me to church, and when we get there, I light a candle for my son.
And I do too.
I suddenly realized what that music was from my dream. It's an old hymn from when I was a kid. Now, I haven't been to church in years, but for some reason, that song was in my head. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. Where there's doubt, true faith in you. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light. Never say shalom bimroma. Uya se shalom aleinu. Ve'al ko Israel.
There's a man here in town. He's lived here almost his entire life. When he heard that there was a rabbi diverted here, he came to find me to tell me his story.
I was born in Poland, I think. And my parents, they were Jews. They sent me here before the war started. I still remember some prayers they taught me. As a boy, I was told I should never tell anyone I was Jewish, even my wife. But after what happened on Tuesday, so many stories gone just like that. I needed to tell someone.
During El Fajr, when most people are asleep, it is easier to pray. But at Duhur, I can feel them watching. Sometimes I catch them when they think I am not looking, and I can see the fear in their eyes.
Excuse me, Beulah wanted me to check on you. The library's open for anyone looking for some peace and a quiet place to pray.
Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. So Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand.
there is darkness, only light, and where there's sadness, ever joy.
And thank you to Tommy for providing this wonderful video. At this time, the choir is going to perform. The purpose of this church is to encourage all who gather to grow more generous in spirit and action. We will now gratefully receive an offering to sustain this self-supporting church and its ministries within and beyond our walls. If you happen to be watching online, we hope you will consider making an offering through our webpage shenandoah.org. If you are visiting with us today, you are a welcome guest. Please feel free to let the basket pass you by. Now, as Diana comes forward, let us all say together, here and from our homes, the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, warmth of our community, or the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
Noise this time.
Please.
Just some closing words for y'all. These are words from Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. No matter how weak or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in this world. In the coming week, may you do one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected, and each day act that you may be a little more whole.